Hey everyone, it's Hailey, and today I'm doing a video that I love doing every year, but I didn't get to do because I didn't end up doing Bookmas. I think I've actually only done this a couple of times now that I'm thinking about it, but it's definitely one of my favorites. Like, I've just done it in general for all the books that I've read, but I also love doing a yearly one. I think it's just fun. So essentially, we are going to be looking at what the best books are that I read this past year in 2023, according to Goodreads. So this is basically like what people agree with me on, and I also have some of the worst books that I read thrown in there as well. But I think this is going to be really fun. I am quite excited for it. I'm going to stick to fiction books, even though I did read some nonfiction like self-help books last year as well, but I just decided to stick to fiction books because that is what I decided to do. There's really no good reason for that. So I read 150 something, give or take, because my tracking kind of got messed up throughout the year, books last year, but that also is for 13 months because of Bookmas stuff. But yeah, that's literally inconsequential. Just so you know though. And I also have a video that should be out before this one, which will show you every single book that I read this past year. So I will link that down below if you wanted to watch it. And I also give some like brief thoughts in that video as well. So starting off with the best books, first, no surprise, we have Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This was so hyped up last year. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone was loving it. So I just had to read it, and it actually did live up to that hype for me, and I was shocked by that because usually when a book is that hyped up, I'm almost like inevitably going to be disappointed because it just has so much to live up to. But this was just such a pleasant surprise that I did actually end up loving it. And kind of taking a quick look at this list as well, it's a lot of my favorite books of the year, so that's always awesome. Fourth Wing has a 4.62 average star rating as of the time of filming this. Those always change, but that's what it's at right now. And I would say that I agree with that. Like, it's definitely one of my new all-time favorite series. I honestly loved it. Like, dragons are something that I feel like it's hard to do well. I always have big expectations for it, but it doesn't always live up to it. But this one like surpassed those expectations. And number 2 is All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir. This was also on my favorites list of the year, but here it has an average star rating of 4.52, and these ratings are out of 5 stars, just in case you're not familiar with Goodreads, which would be surprising because you're on this video, but it's like a bookish social media essentially. I thought All My Rage was very fantastic. I knew it was going to be an emotional and hard read going into it, and it definitely lived up to that. It was very hard to read, but it was such an incredible story and one that is going to stick with me for a really long time. So I do agree with the star rating. I don't think I enjoyed it quite as much, but it was very, very good. Coming in at number 3 is As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow by Zulfa Katu. So I would definitely agree with this one. It was once again one of my favorites of the year, and it has a 4.52 average star rating as well, and I definitely agree with that. This was once again such an emotional and difficult story. It's really interesting to see like how the stories that are generally more emotional, I feel like they're the ones that stick out to me that I love, and it seems to be the same for other people as well. This is following a young girl in Syria, and she is dealing with a lot. She is living in a war-torn country, and she is fighting for her life and trying to also live her like average everyday life. It is so heartbreaking, but it taught me a lot. It really was incredible. At number 4, we have Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. This has a 4.41 average star rating, and I feel like it should be higher, honestly. I love this book. It was, I think, my second favorite of the year, second or third. I can't quite remember because those top 3 were all really vying for that top spot. Like, I just loved them all so much. And this was a lot of fun, but really a touching story. It's the kind of book that will like stick with you because it's so heartwarming and beautiful and just overall lovely. You have the perspective of an octopus in there. Like, I don't know what else you could want from a book, so I completely understand why people are liking it. I forgot that in the past I actually used to read people's reviews when I did this video, so I will try and find a couple of reviews really quickly for the ones like going forward. I'm not going to go back, but I'm out of season. It's been a while since I filmed this, but this review says incredible 5 plus stars and highly recommend, and they listened to it on audio and loved it. Completely agree with that. I also listened to the audiobook and just loved it. And this other person says this might be my favorite book this year and will also be one of the best books I've ever read. Why did I love it so much? Honestly, same. Next, also at a 4.41 is The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. This is the other one that was either my second or third favorite book of the year. I can't remember, but I once again feel like the rating should be higher. I fell in love with this story. It is one that tugged on my heartstrings because it's really difficult. You have characters in a situation of abuse and it's hard to read. They are also kind of trying to survive in the Alaskan wilderness in the 70s. There is a lot happening in this book, but Kristen Hanna is a master of making you fall in love with characters and care for them so deeply. And this was no exception. As this person says, it's been 2 days since I finished this book and I still can't get over this story. It's been quite some time since I read a book that made me feel so much. Some scenes made my heart flutter, others made me so anxious and scared, and other scenes broke my heart like only Kristen Hanna is able to. Yes, like I completely could not have said it better myself. It is so true. I was so nervous because I love The Nightingale so much, but I was delighted to not be disappointed by this one, and I'm glad that other people have felt the same. At number 5, we have Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. This is the sequel to Fourth Wing, so we have a 4.38 star rating, and it's kind of interesting because when I said that I liked it in a reading wrap, it wasn't a reading wrap up because I haven't done one in a while. I forget where I said, like what video I said that in, but people were saying that a lot of people didn't like it, and I was really surprised by that because I didn't really see anything wrong with it, but maybe I just wasn't reading it deeply enough. I don't really know, but yeah, I thought it was a very solid sequel that I enjoyed a lot. Goodreads has been doing this thing lately, and I noticed this when I was trying to save the covers for my every book that I read in 2024 video. It will all of a sudden say page unavailable when you try to open a new tab. An unexpected error has occurred and it just doesn't fix. Like you can refresh it a million times and nothing is going to happen. So I might actually not be able to read the reviews for you. Yeah, because it is just doing that, and I also don't want to try and click on it and then lose this page because that would ruin my whole plans for today's video. We'll just go on. I'm really sorry about that. At least we got a couple in there. But next is The Sunbearer Trials by Aiden Thomas. This has an average of 4.37 star rating, and I didn't quite enjoy this one as much as everyone else did. I thought it was a really great fantasy and a very interesting story overall. I did enjoy the characters a lot, and I loved the culture that was brought into it as well. It was a different kind of mythology than what I'm used to, which was really nice because I was learning about it for the first time, but there's something about this story that didn't quite vibe with me as much as I wanted it to. Aiden Thomas, I've read 3 of their books now, and the first one I loved, Cemetery Boys, big fan, and then the second one, Lost in the Neverwoods, I ended up actually DNFing. I didn't like that one, so the Sunbearer Trials was definitely an improvement. I feel like I would probably give it like a 4 out of 5 stars. I'm going to skip over the next one because it's a self-help book, but in case you were curious, it's Atomic Habits by James Clear. Not surprising, which has a 4.36 star rating. The next fiction book, however, is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, which has a 4.34. This is another book that was super hyped up on TikTok and everything. Everyone was loving it, and it's not the kind of book that I would generally go for because I'm just not a huge mystery person. Not generally my thing, but I was interested in this one, and we ended up reading it for my book club, and we all really liked it, like most people did. There definitely were some people who didn't, but I feel like I really enjoyed it. I don't think that I would agree that it's a 4.34. I would say it's more like a 4 stars for me, but that's not like by any means a bad rating that I would give it. I did really enjoy it. I thought it was a different concept. There were just some kind of suspension of disbelief things. I tried to open up a tab again and it's still not working, so I'm sorry, I'm trying. Next is another sequel actually, and I find that generally sequels are pretty highly rated, and I think it's because like generally, if you're going to read a sequel, you enjoyed the first book, so you're kind of set up for more success there. But that sequel is Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong, which is the second book for These Violent Delights duology. Wow, that got all messed up there. But this has a 4.34 average star rating as well. And I am not a huge sequel person, to be honest, but I have been trying to read some more of them. I don't know why, but I'm trying to get to some of them, at least the ones that I like already own. So I was really hoping to enjoy this one more than I actually did. I thought it was fine. It's just, I preferred the first book, and that's just like, take that opinion with a grain of salt, just knowing how I feel about sequels. I'm just not generally a series person. Next is one that actually surprised me because I feel like I hadn't seen it anywhere, and that is We Deserve Monuments by Jazz Hammonds. This has a 4.33 star rating, and I picked this one up like completely not knowing anything at the bookstore last Boxing Day. I don't know why that's such a core memory for me, but anytime like one of the books that I got at Boxing Day, I feel the need to say that. The other one was As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. I purely based on the cover essentially picked this one up, and it was really good. It has a 4.33 average star rating, and I think for me, once again, it would be more of a 4. It wasn't like a perfect story, but I loved the concept behind it and found that it was actually very well done. It is dealing with race and prejudice, and as you can tell from the title, We Deserve Monuments, it is monuments for people who essentially don't really get those monuments often. It was a very well done story. Next is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, which has a 4.32 average star rating. Once again, I feel like this one is probably more of a 4 for me. I just really don't give out 5 out of 5 stars very often. Like, I know some people will sometimes say I don't give 5 out of 5 stars because no book is perfect, but then the 4 becomes the new, like, perfect. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not giving 5 out of 5 stars, then 4 out of 5 stars kind of becomes the new 5. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just how my brain goes. So I do give out 5 out of 5 stars. It just does not happen super often. Anyways, that was a tangent, but Part of Your World was my second book that I have read by this author, and I think that the other one I also read this year. Yeah, I did, because it's further down on the list with an average rating of 4.17. Part of Your World was a really fun and cute romance. I did enjoy it a lot, and I'm kind of intrigued. I guess it's because there was a lot of like 0 to 100 in the other book. It very much escalated quickly, so I can kind of understand that. Now, before I go to talk about some of the worst books that I read this year according to Goodreads, I wanted to kind of scroll down a bit to see where my other favorites of the year are, and I see one of them right here, The Wishing Game, which was my #1 favorite book of the year, has a 4.18 average rating. So it's not like super far down, but definitely it should be higher. Like, if there's ever a book that I was giving a 5 out of 5 stars, it's that one. I loved it. And conversely, Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree has a 4.17, and I don't agree with that. I think it might be the time when I read it. I'm not entirely sure, but I just didn't fall in love with that one. I'm not surprised that it has such a high rating because I know people were loving it, but it definitely wasn't exactly for me. So yeah, those are kind of the interesting ones that stick out to me. Now we're gonna flip it and reverse it to see what the worst books that I read this year are. And already I'm seeing quite a few Christmas ones. So I'll just go over a few of these, not as many as the best ones, but we have All I Want for Christmas by Maggie Knox, which has a 3.19. Can I open to see reviews? Are you going to load? Oh, it did load, yay! So I wanted to love this one so much, but I just didn't. It says this 2-star review. This other 2-star review says I was going to throw up if the male lead called one more person sweetheart or darling, which is true. It's because it's like a country star, but it was like really, you know, driving it home there. I thought this one was cute. I thought it was fine, but I do remember as I'm reading Cindy's review here, I lost track of how many times the main guy ran away after an unnecessary misunderstanding, but I know in my heart this couple will not last after the book ends. Yeah, that is actually pretty accurate. I do remember having read that that there were a lot of weird misunderstandings that got to be very, very frustrating. So I can agree with that. Next is Never Vacation with Your Ex by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca, and this one has a 3.21 average star rating. I liked this one, but I find their books are always very hit or miss for me, and I find that as they've been doing more adult books, I have kind of been vibing with those ones more, and this one was a YA, obviously. But yeah, actually, as I'm reading the synopsis, that's jogging my memory. It's about this volleyball star and like this guy, she's basically trying to help him get over her, and she is kind of an interesting character. I don't know, just wasn't exactly my favorite. This 2-star review here says, I could not muster up any sympathy for Hailey, who's the main character. There was no ambivalence even, or moments where I felt for her. She just made me frustrated. In the whole guide to getting over a breakup or ex routine she played off on Dean, her ex just rubbed me the wrong way the whole time. But I can't even say that I felt more for Dean or sympathized with him either, because he frustrated me too, and so did the parents. So all the characters were very annoying for this person, and I can definitely see that there was a maturity problem, which I'm just not a fan of. Like, they weren't enemies, but I didn't like the situation and just found it kind of meh. So I feel like I do agree with this rating. Next is The Setup by Lizzie Dent. I enjoyed Lizzie Dent's first book, and I know quite a few people didn't like that one, but I really liked it. But this one has a 3.34 star rating, and my memory is so horrible. I need to try and like jog it with reading these things. Okay, so this is the one who really likes horoscopes and everything. Got it. I'm kind of caught up, but clearly it was kind of forgettable for me. We have a 2-star review here that says the main issue with the book is Mara's character. She's immature and not likable, which made it difficult to read since she is the sole narrator. I seem to recall that was kind of the thing with her first book, The Summer Job, but for me, it just read a lot better, and I did like seeing the character transform, but in this one, I just didn't quite vibe with it as much. I'll go over a couple more really quickly. So A Merry Little Meet Cute by Julie Murphy has a 3.36. I actually really like this one. It was way more smutty than I was expecting, especially from Julie Murphy. It's actually also by Sierra Simone, now that I think about it. It's just on Goodreads, they only show one author in this view, which is really strange, but whatever. I feel like I'm not generally as critical with Christmas reads, and I kind of am expecting average or not liking it as much, which sounds horrible, but maybe my mind is tainted from the ones that I read this past year, because I didn't really read any that I loved. They were just kind of all okay, because technically the 2 that I've talked about so far are ones that I read in December of 2022. But yeah, I feel like it's hard for me to be disappointed by Christmas reads, so this one didn't disappoint me. But the next one, We Met in December by Rosie Curtis. I can't remember if this is the one that completely frustrated me. No, because there's one that I can't, Always in December by Emily Stone is the one that drove me nuts, but that one has a higher star rating. What the heck? I think it's the shock value thing. Anyways, this one has a 3.37, and I thought it was okay. It was just kind of like a year of them falling in love, but I didn't feel the chemistry between them and didn't feel like they should end up together. So I feel like I would almost rate that one lower, to be honest. Wanderlust by Elle Everhart, I did enjoy. It has a 3.39, which I feel like I'd probably give it like a 3.5. It was good. And the last one that I'll talk about is Lies We Sing to the Sea by Sarah Underwood. This one, I know a lot of people disliked, but I actually really enjoyed it. It has a 3.4, but I think I personally gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. And I think it's because I'm not exactly familiar with the backstory to it. Like, I think it's based on the Odyssey, and I think people were annoyed because she said she had never read it, the author. I don't know for sure, but I think that's what I was getting from the like Goodreads reviews and everything. But yeah, I really liked it. So those are all of the best and some of the worst books that I read this year according to Goodreads. I think this is such a fun video to film, so let me know actually if you would like me to do one again, like an updated one with all of my overall reads, because I think the last one that I did was before I ever started reading adult books or anything like that, and I think it would be kind of interesting to compare. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in another new one very soon. Bye!